Okay guys, I'm back with probably my favourite deck of all time. I've wanted to bring you this profile for a long time now. It's Paleozoic Frogs, probably one of the best rogue decks this format. No one really has anything sided for it, and this deck can side almost anything you want to out all the top meta decks at the moment. But yeah, there is a few things that I would change to it, like I'm trying to get a hold of impermanence, so I can take out maybe Ghost Ogre, but I'll get around to that later on in the video. So everything basically stays the same. We play the 3 swaps, the 3 dupes, and the 2 rodent totems. The ratio never changes. It's pretty standard. The last other monster that we play is the 1 Gamay Seal. Everything else monster wise in this you don't really want to summon unless you have to, and you usually set it. But that's it for that monster lineup. For the hand traps, because we don't like to brick with anything, we play 2 Droll and Lockbird, 2 Ghost Ogre, and 2 Ash Blossoms. As I said, I'd probably take the Ghost Ogre out for the impermanence. I just believe the monster effect negation is probably a little bit better than the Ghost Ogre popping one already face up card on the field. So that's it for all the monsters. We'll get into the spell cards. There's not too many of them. We play 2 Desires just to turbo into your hand a bit more, give you a few more resources. 3 Scapegoat, because this card's absolutely broken and it opens up your extra deck a lot more with the Nightmare release cards. And finally, for the spell cards, 1 Raigeki. All that's pretty self-explanatory. The only bad thing about Desires is if you do banish all your frog combo pieces, but I have a way around that, so I'm not too worried. For the start of the trap lineup, we play 1 Breakthrough Skill and 1 Lost Winds. I'm umming and ahhing which one is actually better overall. They are both double neg to your opponent's monster effects, where impermanence is a 1 neg to your opponent's card effects, but it's all up in the air. Like, depending on what you're versing, you could probably play 2 Lost Winds and 2 Breakthrough, or I don't know. I really haven't thought about that too much, and this ratio for me's worked just perfect. Next on the list is 2 Storming Mirror Force. No one really expects battle traps to be in the game still. Not many people play them at the moment. They're more pushing to turbo their deck out and kill your opponent as quick as possible. So this catches a lot of decks off guard and just ruins them, because they've set up their Nightmare links and extra deck due, and this just gets rid of all that too easy. Next is Mistake. You only really have, what, 1 card that adds in this deck, I want to say, and that would be Dupe Frog. The rest of it doesn't add at all, so it's not too bad. Oh, and there is the Paleozoic extra deck monster that adds a trap card, but you don't go into him very often, so it doesn't really matter. Any spell fragrance, run barely any spell cards, so it doesn't really hurt you. Hurts your opponent more than anything. Sky Striker Tricksters, you flip this and they lose pretty well straight away. So yeah, really good card. Next is Compulsory Evacuation Device. Just gets rid of problematic cards. When your opponent thinks they're setting up a good play and establishing a board, you just get rid of the 1 piece they need to finish it, and you basically win from that. For the last cards, they're all Paleozoics. So we play 2 Olenoides, which is the MST. Don't really need more than 2. Haven't really needed it, so it's good, but it's not bad in a way. Probably still one of the best Paleozoic trap cards out. The next one, that's this, Hallucinogenia. Probably the second best, if not the best, Paleozoic trap card. It's a shrink, so it halves your opponent's monster's attack and defense, allows you to get over their big beaters. So if they have a Borreload on board, you shrink it and you can slap over it with Toad, no worries. Next is 19JUL. It returns one banished card. So if you've potted Desires and you've banished, let's say, both your Rodent Totems, 19JUL doesn't actually target one face-up banished card, it targets any banished card. So you can return one of your Rodent Totems, also get a combo off and summon a Paleozoic trap card from your grave, and that'll open up to make you a Toad. So it's just a little bit of an out. So it's really good card. Next is 2 Candina, or Canadia. It's Book of Moon. Basically baits out anything you want, if not just turns them face down and they can't continue with their turn. For the last 2 cards in the actual deck, they're probably the worst, well, one of the worst Paleozoic trap cards out currently, because they don't give you anything, and yeah, they're just not great. So one Deinonychus, it's a -1 to hand and your opponent loses 1 card overall. Not a cost to discard though. The cost is targeting, but discarding's on resolution. But yeah, it's a -1 to hand. You don't really get any bonuses off it, although it does interrupt your opponent's play. And the next one is Morella. Not overly impressed with this card, this format. It's a bit slow. Yeah, it gives you more Paleozoic or trap cards into your graveyard, so you could, instead of dropping a Paleozoic monster, you can drop Breakthrough or Lost Winds. But probably not the best one overall. I wouldn't want to cut it totally out of the deck, because it does give you some resources, but I wouldn't want it at more than 1 either. So that's it for the main deck. There's 40 cards in it. Really strong. Pretty easy to side with. So we'll go into the extra deck. Of course we've got to play the 2 Totally Awesome, because he is just totally awesome. 1 Ophibinia. As I said, you don't really make him, but there are times where you do need to dig for, say, MST or just another Paleo card to out your opponent's board. Or you sit him on board and you have like 2 or 3 Paleo cards in your hand, and your opponent can't MST it, but you can still activate him from the hand, which is really good. Next one, Sky Cavalry Centuria. Just an out for big boss monsters that are unaffected, well, not unaffected, but can't be destroyed, or like they're just too big for your other monsters to get over. He's able to get around that stuff. And obviously, one of the boss Paleo dude. If you make him, you usually win that game. 3 pops, like you can pop any card you want once per turn, so super strong. That's it for the XYZs. Only run the 5 because we're going into link format and you really want to build more of a big board. So for my link 1s, I've got 2 link spiders. Don't need more than that. When Link Karibo's out, I'll probably play him, but at this point in time, just the 2 link spiders is fine. The 1 Mistar Boy, play him when you push for game. Don't really play him if you're not pushing for game, because he will, I don't know, he's just not very viable, I want to say, and he doesn't really interact with your Nightmare cards too well because of his arrows. Next is the 1 Proxy Dragon, because we just needed a generic Link 2 that I can use tokens to get into, so I can just bounce through stuff. Next on the list is 2 Phoenix. This is probably the reason why I don't play more of the Paleozoic MST, because this guy does the exact same thing, and if he's co-linked with a link spider above him, you get the draw, so you're digging through your deck and you're just giving yourself resources by getting rid of your Paleozoic cards in hand. Next one on the list, one Cerberus. Not overly great, but still effective in a way. One Unicorn, super strong. Just shuffle any card on the field when summoned. Plus, if you build a decent board of nightmare monsters, every nightmare monster that's co-linked, you get to draw. So sometimes you can have a pretty broken board of nightmare monsters and a toad still sitting there, and your opponent can't do anything. Last nightmare card is Griffin. Really strong. I like to build a Griffin underneath my extra deck zone and then put Toad in my extra deck zone. Basically, I can activate Toad effect, but your opponent can't activate any of their card effects on the field. So that's really good. And obviously the one Borrow Load, because Borrow Load outs Borrow Load. That's basically it. And it can be made easily off one Scapegoat. So that's it for the extra deck. Should be 15 cards there. Can't really change too much in it, but we'll get around to it and we'll see what we can do later on. For the side deck, run 2 Ghost Spell. There has been times where it has won me games, like against Sky Strikers, stopping their Kagari from adding Engaged back from the grave, and just they can't do anything from it. One Ash Blossom just to finish off the playset, because there's 2 in deck. Depending on the matchup, you side it in. If not, you just leave it out. Next is 3 Shared Ride. Some decks don't really have outs to you, and if they want to keep adding, you just keep drawing, and by the end of it, if you end up with a heap of resources, you win that game. So it's just a no-brainer. 2 Ra Sphere Mode, just to get rid of the extra link. If your opponent makes the extra link board on you, like Gokis can, you just Ra Sphere Mode it, start from scratch, and usually they can't re-establish a decent board because they've used all their resources. This one I've been umming and ahhing about because pendulums aren't really a big thing where I play, but they still do a lot of good plays. So 2-dimensional barrier just for that matchup. Not too worried about it, as I said, because pendulums don't get played in my locals, but still really strong. 2 Twin Twisters just to remove back row, so you come against the True Draco matchup that, you know, rogue players are still playing, you can remove it. Or even if you come up against the Altergeist matchup, you can just remove their whole back row, no problems. And last of all, Heavy Storm Duster. Same thing as Twin Twister, just remove back row, but this allows you to chain a Paleo trap card from your graveyard. So a little bit better, a little bit slower though, so it's catch 22. But that's it for the side deck. I want to show you the board I was talking about with Griffin and Toad. So you resolve Scapegoat and you've done your swap frog play to bury a whole bunch of frogs to your grave and rodent totem. So basically, this is where you'll make, so you'll go through into a link spider in your extra deck zone. You'll make something like a phoenix behind it, pop their back row. You'll do a rodent totem play, make a nightmare Cerberus. From this, you do rodent totem again, and you use these 2 to go into a unicorn down here, and then you use your rodent totem again. Like, this is just abusing frogs as much as possible. So you'll end up with a rodent totem over here somewhere. You'll make a griffin, And then hopefully by the end of this, you end up with enough resources to do 2 more Rodent Totem plays, and you make Swap Frog totally awesome above your Griffin. So all your cards can't be destroyed by card effect. Monsters that were special summoned and not linked can't activate their effects. And Toad will give you a Dupe Frog, where they have to attack the Dupe Frog before they can get rid of anything else. Plus he will give you a neg for any card you want as well. So it is really broken. It takes a little bit to play into it. You can't do it turn 1, but turn 2 it is extremely viable if you've already done your Swap Frog plays and you've opened up with a Scapegoat. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the profile. I'd like to see some of you play this deck, and next time I'll bring you something new. Peace.